What up YouTube, Darthub coming at you with another Redstone tutorial. This is episode 4 of the Redstone University, where I go over these 6 simple circuits that basically, if you know these circuits and the logic gates that I showed in the last episode, along with how to run wires and what the components do, you'll pretty much be able to make just about anything you set your mind to. It just takes a little practice and creativity. So let's get started with these 2 here. Now the reason I'm starting with 2 is because these both give out pulses. What a pulse is just a quick flash of the redstone. And so what I'm going to do is, the first one's going to be a leading edge pulse. So we're going to put our blocks like so with another one here. You want to go ahead and put a repeater here on 3 ticks if you want a 1 tick pulse, or 4 ticks if you want a 2 tick pulse. If you only give it 1 or 2, the circuit will not work. So we're going to go 3. And then you saw the dust there. Bring a block out from here. We want to run dust on both of those. Now it's important that this is the input, okay? This block here, you can power this block directly, or you can just make sure that the line that's on it gets powered up to at least here to make the circuit go. So we put a torch there, we put a torch there, and this line is going to be your output. So let's go ahead and give it a line into a block, and we'll put a lever on the block. Now what this is going to do is that line should flash when I turn this on, not when I turn it off. Now the reason this happens is because this line goes, and in 1 tick this goes off, turning that line off, and in another tick that turns on. Okay, so at this is 1 tick, this is 2 ticks, then this is 3 ticks, which means that this line goes back on. So the 2nd tick this turns on, the 3rd tick this turns off. So that's why it's a 1 tick pulse, and that's why if you give it 4, now this will stay on for 2 ticks. Now this next one's a pulse as well, but it's on the falling edge, meaning that when you turn the power off, you will then get your signal. So what you're going to do is, this is the money block, this is where you want the power to go to. You go ahead and put a torch out of it, put a block on top of that torch with another torch out of it. You should make them go the same direction, and it'll be apparent why here in just a moment. Put a repeater here on 3 ticks once again, with a block here, dust here, torch here. This will be your line out. So let's go ahead and do not put dust on top of this. When we're running our line in, we will come to the side of this block. You put the dust on top of this, then this torch lighting this block will create a feedback loop. So we throw this on, and when I flip it, nothing happens. But when I turn it off, you get a quick flash over here. That's why it's the falling edge. Okay, so what we have is basically the same principle as over there, it's just inverted. See how that's off and this is on? And that's basically why it's at the falling edge instead of the leading edge. Okay, so the next circuit you should know is a pulse extender. Now there are many different designs of pulse extenders. I'm going to show you my favorite, and we'll let you go from there. I'm going to have my input be a repeater running from a block, and that's because the first 2 blocks here are going to be dust, and you want a comparator followed by comparator the opposite direction followed by dust. Okay, and you know what, yeah, I'm going to put a button on the side of here too. So the button's mainly what we're going to use, so we'll put the button on top and then the lever on the side, because this is extending a pulse, so we'll just give it a short pulse, and you see it takes a while for that to turn off. And the reason for that is because that when you stop giving power over here, you've got a full signal coming in, but once you stop giving power, so 1 tick later it comes over here, and then it bleeds off 1 power here, goes here, bleeds off 1 power here, or here, and so it loops around, and over the course of 1 tick per shot, so 15 ticks later, it should turn off once you stop giving power. And the trick you can use is you can remove the dust of one of these coming out, so it would be right here. So if you do that, that pulse is never going to turn off because it's not bleeding anywhere. But either one of these can be the block, and so what's happening now is it's not bleeding on this side, but it is only bleeding once on this side. So adding the block makes it work twice as good, or twice as long. You can also add comparators to each side, and each comparator you add, you have to have one per side, so that adds 2 ticks to the time. Okay, so this next one here is what's called an RSNOR Latch. So the R and the S stand for reset set. So if you follow me here with how I'm doing these blocks, then we're going to have dust on all those ones, and then a torch here and a torch here, and then you would have your inputs run into this block and that block, so it takes 2 inputs, and your output would be on one side. And what you've got here is this button will turn that side, but it won't. So I could then run a dust here and have whatever I'm outputting to just be on the one side. So this button turns it off and only off. This button turns it on and only on. Now the other way the way I mainly like to do this is with droppers. So what you do is you take 2 droppers and you face those 2 into each other, and you put a block, or you put something in one of them. Doesn't matter what it is, just a single item in one, and then you run a comparator out of the other one, and that's your output. That'll run into whatever. But since you just got one in there, it's good to put a repeater after that if you're going on a line. But if you're just going into that, it doesn't know the difference. So then you've got a block here into this dropper, and then a block here into that dropper, and it is the exact same thing as the redstone one. You push this button, that'll turn it on, but it won't turn it off. This button will turn it off, but it won't turn it on. So the next one we're going to do is what's known as a clock. I like to use the comparator clocks, not a repeater clock, but a comparator clock. You always put it on subtract mode, and then you would put the output, just wrap it around to the side, and then you would give input. And then so what you could do from here is you could then take the redstone and extend it out, and then put a repeater in there to give it a time delay, and then you could just give it more time delay as needed, and you could add more repeaters to the line to give it even more time delay. But this is very, very useful in synchronizing many different contraptions together. Okay, so the very last one that I wasn't sure if I wanted to put on here or not, a lot of you probably know as a sorting device, which I consider to be a filter, an item filter. So I'm taking a chest and I'm going to run a hopper into the back of that chest. And most of you probably know this one already, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then you run another hopper on top of that, but not leading into it, leading behind it. And you would then have a comparator running out of that into a piece of dust. Let's put a repeater here, block here, another piece of dust here, and a torch right there under this hopper. So what we've got is this comparator is reading what's in this right here. We want this to be lit to 1, but not quite to 2. And to make it like that, we will put 1 in all 3 of these and 18 here. So 22, the 23rd will make a line of 2, which will then come from here and turn that off to drop an item into here, which then leaves this at 21, which then turns this off, turns this back on, locking this. And it all happens in just enough time to where this only drops 1 and it's stuck in here and it does not go here. So then throw another item in here and now 1's in the chest. Throw these in here and then they'll all be in the chest. So it'll stop when they're 41. Bada bing, bada boom, you got 41. And where you can take your output here is, so like if you're taking payment with just like 1, say you've got what, here we go, a slab. So say we've got a slab on top of this guy here, okay, and the floor is made of slabs. Say you want this to open a door if you throw a golden carrot on there, which I put back in there. So you could then throw your golden carrot down and the torch down there lit. So you could take and run your output straight out of that block there that the repeater runs into, and if you look at that dust down there, it just lit. So that would then open your door, and that is exactly why I went ahead and put this in the Essential Circuits video. Okay, so that's all for this video. If you think that there's a circuit that I missed, because there are a few other circuits that are kind of essential, but I think that these are the most essential. If you have these, you can figure your way into some of the other ones. And combining these will give all kinds of different effects. I recommend playing with them. If you learned anything in this video, go ahead and leave a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will be making more videos in this series and in others. See you.